All right, welcome everybody to episode 1 of the Long Toss on the Walkoff. I hear an echo already. Is that me? That's me. All right, we got rid of it. Look at this.
Adam warned all of us about this echo, by the way. Yes.
I literally spent the last 5 minutes scolding everybody. Is it scolding or scalding? One's hot water and one is a stern talking to. I never can remember which.
Scolding.
I threw
Don't
hot water
scald
at
us.
all of
Yes.
you and said, make sure your YouTube is muted so we're not getting an echo. And I just did it off the top. So great start to episode 1. For everybody who's joining us in the YouTube live chat, welcome. We are going to be keeping an eye on that, so get your comments and questions in throughout the show. But we're just going to have a roundtable discussion on Blue Jays, baseball, sports, and pop culture in general. So let's run down who we've got joining us today. We've got my co-host on the Walkoff, Scott Belford. How you doing, man?
Sitting in the passenger seat this time. I'm loving it.
I know, you're off the hook.
You've taken the lead here, buddy. Good for you.
This is great. All right. We've also got Joel. Hey, Kami on TikTok. What's going on, Joel?
Oh, not too much, Adam. How are you?
Yeah, just living the dream, you know. These
Yeah,
warm Alberta winters.
Really excited for this, man. I've been looking forward to this all week. Put all of this nonsense up on my wall.
All right. Craig Ballard, how are you doing, man?
Well, Phil, am I the answer to the Sesame Street? One of these things does not belong here because we've got the Epic Walkoff podcast, who's on fire with their guests lately. I've been saying that for a few months now. We got Hey Kami, who's an absolute legend, and I think you're about to introduce our next legend as well, who is also a fellow bald brother. I thought I was bringing the bald to the table here, but I see that's not even the case. So we'll have to see. Hopefully, I'll be able to fit in. Now I know we're going to be talking baseball, so at the end of the day, how am I doing? Real well.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Craig. Sean Doyle from Jays from the Couch. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, not bad. Weather down here in Nova Scotia is pretty terrible. So I hear you and your Alberta weather. But I'm looking forward to talking some Blue Jays with all of you. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. Of course, special guest joining us today, friend of the show, Taylor Sacedo of the Toronto Blue Jays. Welcome, buddy. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. Probably doing a little bit better than everybody that's in Canada. We got 65, 70-degree weather, so,
Oh, man.
doing all right. Can't complain. We got football on, so.
Yeah, I saw the Bengals-Chiefs game just went to overtime, hey?
They tied it. Wow, okay.
Yeah, Chiefs tied it up. Chiefs are up like 21-7. The Bengals came storming back, took the lead, and now the Chiefs have tied it up into overtime. So,
You got money on this, Sauce?
Yeah, I took the Bengals. So.
The Bengals, all right. We'll see how that shakes out. All right, last but
That
not
reaction right there, that's not the reaction of somebody who has money on it. There's some sort of bet, like an embarrassing outcome by that reaction. That's a bet with a buddy.
No,
an embarrassing outcome.
I just have a really bad losing streak. So, like, everybody that's lost in the playoffs, I picked. So,
All right, fair
just defeated right now a little bit.
All right, and then last but not least, we're joined by our new to the Walkoff team, our Discord moderator and live chat babysitter, Mark. Unmute your mic and say hello, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I'm good. How are you?
Right. I'm good. So Mark's going to be keeping an eye on the live chat on YouTube. So if anybody has any questions as we go, I see we've got about 14 people on YouTube watching along. So get your questions and comments in, and we'll throw to Mark every once in a while and get your 2 cents inputted. So we got a lot to talk about today, as much as it is a quiet, lockout-filled off season. But some of the stuff we're going to get to is we're going to talk the Baseball Hall of Fame inductees. Obviously, David Ortiz is in, Barry Bonds and others are out. We're going to talk about both of them. We're going to talk about Robo umps, one step closer to making it to the MLB. So congrats on your promotion to the Robo umps. Pitch clock we're going to discuss, as well as the universal DH. Then we're going to get into a kind of status update assessment of where we stand with the MLB lockout. I think I'd like to talk about the expanded playoffs that seem to be inevitable at this point. Although, is it going to be 12 teams? Is it going to be 14 teams? We'll see. We're also going to talk about minor league housing, a little update there. and then we're going to kind of throw it around the horn and see what everybody's watching or doing right now in the off season to fill their baseball void. So that's what we have to look forward to. But let's start with Discord, shall we, Mark? You got a question for us?
Yeah, I got I guess one thing on Discord they were talking about is Randall Grichuk's value. So I guess the question is, what is Randall Grichuk's value basically if you were to trade him with his salary?
All right, let's get into Randall Grichuk. Taylor Sasado, obviously, probably gonna have to keep your mouth shut on this one. Yeah, just not along. Hey, you know what? Great starting topic because Sasado can just watch the Bengals Chiefs game. Keep himself out of trouble.
Great question.
All right, Joel, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on Randall Grichuk?
To me, Grichuk's usually like he's kind of hot and cold. Everybody knows he's hot and cold, but he'll be hot and cold from season to season, right? So he'll put up like 115 OPS plus one year, and then he'll be, a little bit lower the next year. He'll go below 100, right? But I think when you're talking about being a competitive baseball team, being a postseason baseball team, not only do you need 3 outfielders, you need a 4th outfielder. And he when he's hitting, he checks all the boxes for a good corner outfielder, and he can even play center field. So when it comes to moving him, don't get me wrong, it's a good, like, it's a possibility if you have a void somewhere that you need to fill. But like at the end of the day, the value isn't, he doesn't cost too much, and for a 4th outfielder, and somebody goes down, Grichuk's a perfect replacement for that outfielder.
Defensively, he is very solid, and he does play all 3 outfield positions, and he's a guy that definitely, I mean, he's 30 years old. He's been around the league. He's
so
got some
handsome.
experience, and he is very handsome, yes. But Joel made a really good point. Like, every team needs a 4th outfielder that can fill in admirably when somebody is injured, and we just watched how George Springer was struggling with his health last season. You can't read the future. There's no crystal ball, so you don't know how these guys are going to hold up over 162 games. So I like Randall Grichuk. I think there's no big rush to trade him. I think he's fine. That's my opinion. I don't know. I mean, if there's a salary floor, by the way, like if the CBA changes, I think that Randall Grichuk's value to other teams all of a sudden does increase. Like some of these teams that are going through rebuilds right now that would just need to add salary. And he's a very competent, everyday outfielder.
What do you think, Craig?
If I'm the Blue Jays with Randall Grichuk, I'm looking to eat some of his salary, probably a large part of it, in a trade. Now, I'm looking for a team that will want him as the 4th outfielder, but that has a young outfielder, Marlins, for example, a team where he can go and mentor them. If that team's going to take on some of the money as well, then I'm using that money that I've saved on Grichuk's contract, and I'm re-upping with Corey Dickerson. That would be my 4th outfielder. There's a left-handed bat. That's what I would do. And the return for Grichuk, I'd be looking for a steady veteran bullpen arm. We saw this season. Even without us seeing it this season with the Jays, we know there's never too much pitching that you can have depth-wise in that bullpen. And I don't think he fetches you, a high-end guy, but a mid reliever, something like that. Just a solid arm, a David Phelps, a versatile arm. I could see him having a return price like that. Certainly not a lefty, because we need those innings for Sauce, right, Sauce? We're not bringing in somebody to take your innings. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. No, nothing like that. But that's what I'd be looking to do if I was the Blue Jays. I would be looking to move him with the understanding that we're going to have to eat a significant portion of this salary.
All right, Sean, what are your thoughts on Grichuk?
Yeah, every day I kind of go back and forth. I think that I find myself, all off season, I feel like I've been saying, that they need an upgrade over Randall Grichuk, particularly when you look at the salary and the on-base percentage is just downright, not going to cut it. However, then you look at the defensive value that a guy like that brings with the power potential that he has as well. So as the things stand right now, he may actually have more value to the Blue Jays by staying on the roster as opposed to what he can potentially bring in. So that's the first thing, but Scott's point about the salary floor is a good one, because that kind of may actually open up a few doors for Grichuk. So I mean, if it were up to me, I would explore. I'd listen to whatever's out there, but at the end of the day, you can do a lot worse for a fourth outfielder than Randall Grichuk.
I mean, I guess what it all comes down to is how badly do the Mets want another former Blue Jay?
Jeez.
Add it to the list. All right, let's move on now. Let's get to one of our big topics for the day. Hopefully this is something Taylor can give his 2 cents on, the Baseball Hall of Fame. Are you good to talk about that, Taylor?
I believe so, yeah.
You're not worried about your opinions here hurting your chances in 15, 20 years?
Yeah, no.
All right,
No,
you're
I think
confident in
we're
your
okay.
abilities. Your numbers will speak for themselves. I like it.
Right.
All right, so notable name got in, David Ortiz. Let's just start there. Was this a good decision?
Yeah,
Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? Because I think that's where it starts to get maybe some question marks, right?
I mean, first ballot. I mean, I think so. I mean, you get to go and I think his playoff speaks for itself. One of the most clutch players of all time, but obviously when you go with first ballot, you have. I don't know. Like I'm not very picky on that kind of stuff or any of that. I mean, he's definitely a Hall of Famer, no doubt. Has the numbers, has everything, but like a guy like when you're comparing it to a career, like I mean, completely different position, but like Mariano Rivera, like that's obviously nobody's arguing that, or anything. And if we're also gonna intertwine this with Barry Bonds, if we're gonna talk about all that other stuff like steroids and everything, and if I'm correct, didn't Ortiz fail
he did fail a test that was supposed to be kept secret, I suppose, or not secret but kept out of the public in 2003. So there is an interesting distinction there, and we'll get into that in a minute.
So like I know I'm getting off topic, but like I think David Ortiz deserves what he got. He's great human being, everything around. So yeah, I mean, I will say that David Ortiz is probably first ballot Hall of Famer.
Craig, you look like you have strong opinions on the matter.
Well, geez, where do I even start? For me, it's first ballot or bust. Like, I don't even understand this. That 10-year thing. So we saw Jim Rice get in a couple years ago. So yeah, you have to be out for 5 years. Then you're on the ballot for 10 years. So Jim Rice gets in on his final year of eligibility. The last big moment he had in Major League Baseball was 15 years ago. And all of a sudden the writers are telling me, oh, Jim Rice. Oh, we thought it said beans and rice. We thought it was our lunch order. Yeah. Jim Rice. Oh, no, Jim Rice is a Hall of Famer. So already I'm first ballot or bust. Now, I'll say this, gentlemen. I'll bet you at some private moment when David Ortiz is alone with the Hall of Fame executives and that, I bet he says, listen, fellas, not for nothing. You guys did not do me any favors with this ballot right now. 9 out of 10 questions should be about me and my Hall of Fame. And then 1 out of 10, something out of the ordinary. My God, it's half and half. People are asking me about my Hall of Fame and, of course, my comparisons to Bonds and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You guys did not do me any favors here with this. Can I just tell you something? And as far as him being a first ballot, I agree with everything Sauce said. I don't have an issue with it myself. We're all Blue Jay fans, so we all grew up watching this Red Sox team, and it was an issue for us when David Ortiz. We knew David Ortiz was coming up 2, 3, 4 batters ahead. We were already planning the stretch. Hey, you better get Pedroia a pitch to hit here. We don't want pop. Like, he was legit. He was clutch. And when the lights are shining the brightest in the postseason, gentlemen, he was special.
That is such a great point. Like, the clutch word that keeps coming up, like, he really was so clutch. And I'm kind of on the fence if he was a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he definitely should be there. And what a fun dude, like,
oh man,
Sean.
But Scott, isn't it a problem that seems to be the difference? That
it
one
is,
guy was a fun dude,
of course it's the
and
problem.
The other guy
like,
was
so
quite the opposite.
Dumb. Bonds was too prickly for them.
All right. Any other strong opinions on David Ortiz, first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yeah, I think like if David Ortiz is a first ballot Hall of Famer and Carlos Delgado didn't even get a second year, there's a problem. Like that's the so for me, this whole voting and it's all become about the people who get a vote as opposed to the players being receiving the votes. So that's the big issue here, which is so that for me, no surprise, David Ortiz is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
This is off topic. Like I know we're going to get to Barry Bonds, but it does say a lot that every single MLB player that gets asked says, of course he's a Hall of Famer. Of course he should be there. Anyone who played the game is like, obviously, right? So I don't know.
No, it's absolutely true. Joel, you look like you had something you wanted to say about David Ortiz there.
I don't know. I'll play devil's advocate just for the sake of playing devil's advocate. For me, no doubt in my mind that he's a Hall of Famer. But what I think of when I think of first ballot is someone who is above and beyond a Hall of Famer, an exceptional Hall of Famer, a truly incredible player. And when you think about it, like let's go to old school measuring, the way you would measure a player. And tools. David Ortiz is a two-tool player, right?
But they're
like,
really sharp tools.
Yeah, really sharp tools. Really incredibly sharp tools, right? But this is a guy who sat on the bench 50% of the game, right?
You're right. He's not Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, right. So it's just like I would probably be the 25% of the voter who would be like, he's a second ballot without a doubt, just because of that, right? Because he's not stealing you a base. He's not making an amazing play in the field. You know, he's not playing a pivotal defensive position. He's a designated hitter. And there was a point where we didn't even know if we were putting designated hitters in the Hall of Fame. Remember? That was a big chunk of baseball, but he checks all the boxes for hitting. But that's why, to me, I think I'd be the 25% of the guys who.
Well, I know, Joel, that Adam brought this up on Friday about would David Ortiz be in the Hall of Fame, first ballot, if he was not in one of the big
if he was a Kansas City Royal.
Exactly. If he wasn't a Red Sox or a Yankee or a Dodger, right? Like they've got more clout when you're on one of those teams that are mega markets.
Well, yeah, but for me, once again, like the Yankee, you do amazing things for the Yankees, you're in the limelight. The Dodgers, you're in the limelight. For the Red Sox, you're in the limelight. So obviously that has a great thing of it. His personality, everybody knows Big Papi's got probably the best personality ever. The guy was shot, and he came back from that. When the Boston Marathon bombing happened, like he rallied the city beyond a base. He was bigger than a baseball player, right, for that city. So.
And he was like one of the heroes that helped break that curse of the Bambino, right?
Absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
Iconic moment in baseball.
Absolutely. So to me, no doubt Hall of Famer. And like, God, he should be probably, but I would probably be that stickler. I'd be the guy who didn't give Jeter his vote in this case.
It is funny the way we do like really value the significance of being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like it's an asterisk in a positive way, right? Like all the talk of, let's put Bonds in there, but let's throw an asterisk on it, right? Because of the negative connotations. First ballot Hall of Fame really is just a phenomenal asterisk.
Mariano Rivera is such a great example.
Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
You got Derek Jeter, first ballot Hall of Famer, and basically should have been playing half the game on the bench because he was a terrible defender. So
we can talk Derek Jeter at length, I'm sure, another time, another hot topic on Derek Jeter here. Just before we move on to Barry Bonds, I do want to bring up David Ortiz stats before and after 2003. So 2003. 1997 to 2002, he was with the Minnesota Twins. 2003, he had that, I don't know how else to put it, positive test for steroids.
Now, we don't know that.
Yeah, it is debated.
All right, well, allegedly. Let's put this out here then. Allegedly. His career home run totals in Minnesota, 58 home runs. His home run totals after that alleged PED test in the 5 years following, 208 home runs. So maybe it is an alleged test. Sure is suspicious though.
Just figured something out, maybe.
That's
It
true.
clicked.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Just figured it out. You know, it's that.
Figured out how to not get caught. No.
It's that green monster that he left to put it over in Boston, right?
Well, Tyler, in those days, they didn't have sick lefties like yourself coming out of the bullpen, so he was getting away with things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If only he played in this era.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have loved to pitch against David Ortiz.
Oh yeah,
or
who
Barry
wouldn't want to
Bonds.
pitch against
Right.
Ortiz? God.
I would love that. That would be a fun one.
All right, so let's talk Barry Bonds now. And I think when we talk about Barry Bonds, I feel like he is going to be the stand-in name that we're going to use, but I think Roger Clemens kind of goes in the same category. And,
Of course.
a lot of those other guys. But we don't need to break down every single guy who got left off the Hall of Fame ballot this year. So let's just talk Barry Bonds in specifics. Hall of Famer, we all agree, right? Like unilaterally across the board, he's a Hall of Famer.
The only thing that I'll say, like, really, like, my only argument is if Barry Bonds isn't a Hall of Famer, then you need to get rid of his stats. Why keep his stats, you know, and keep it in baseball? So it's just like you can't have the guy that dominated baseball, holds the records for home runs, does everything that he did, and then you don't put him in the Hall of Fame. Like, so it's just like, then get rid of his stats, you know,
Erase
just
them
eliminate him
altogether,
from
hey?
that and just get rid of that argument. Then you can say, hey, you know, hey, we're not using his stats. He's not a Hall of Famer. You know, it's just, to me, it's like you can't leave a guy like that out. And like every single player and everybody who got to watch him was like, this guy's a Hall of Famer. But we have writers that are like, no, technically he did this, or, you know, supposedly he did this. And I don't know. It's crazy to me.
It
Yeah,
is
you look
crazy.
You look like you had an expression on your face that you're going to argue about that.
Quite the opposite. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I'm trying to keep my eye on who's in the YouTube chat. So who will know if I steal this from Sauce? Because I thought that, and I've done deep dives on I thought that was brilliant right there. If one's good enough, how come the other is not? I don't know. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Let me put it this way. Here's how I'll sum the whole thing up. I was in a Twitter space the other day, like not like this, just listening to a Twitter space, and they went through this year's Hall of Fame stuff like we will. Then they turned the page to next year, and the debate began about Carlos Beltran is the best potential Hall of Famer next year, and will he be a first ballot Hall of Famer? And I'm just sitting there thinking, here we have right here, gentlemen, right here, right now, we have numerous of us, every single one of us here could wax poetically about baseball and the history of baseball. And I think it's very debatable if the name Carlos Beltran would ever come out of any of our mouths, but Barry Bonds would be a poppin'. We would be talking him left, right, and center. You cannot tell the story of Major League Baseball, or even come close, by the way, without talking Barry Bonds. And he had already authored a Hall of Fame career prior to the steroids. That's my big issue with this.
The other thing that I can't stop thinking about is his walks. Like, the guy had over 2,500 walks. He had a season with a 600 on base percentage. Like, steroids aren't going to help you not swing the bat. That's just an elite eye, right? Like, 2,500 walks. It's insane.
I'm not sure we'll ever see anybody walk somebody with the bases loaded again.
Do that?
Like, how much fear do you have to put into a pitcher and a team where they're like, yeah, go ahead, walk him in. We'll just waste a run. You know, like, I don't think in today's game or in the future, I don't think we'll ever see that again. So
He might actually be one of your teammates if there is one out there.
the next person to do it, yeah, we all know who that is. So.
You guys have a lot of faith in Kevin Biggio. I love it.
He died, baby.
That was good.
All right. There's just countless wild stats about Barry Bonds. I was reading one the other day that he has more career intentional walks than the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah.
Like, as a franchise.
That's just...
Guys,
Like,
did you guys see this one? You guys probably saw this one. If you take Barry Bonds' 762 career home runs and we attribute an out to all of them, what home runs? Out, every single one. His career on base percentage would be 384, higher than David Ortiz.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah. Such an insane stat to just
Oh
be
my
able to take
flipping gosh.
the guy with the most home runs ever in the history of baseball, turn them all to outs, and he still has a higher on base percentage than the first ballot Hall of Famer from 2022. Like, wild.
Now, he's going to get in, guys. I'm predicting right here on the initial walk-off long toss. He's getting in the Hall of Fame in December. I'm absolutely calling that. The today's
Era committee, right? Yeah.
bringing him in.
All right. Joel, go ahead.
Did he lead to steroids being banned in baseball? When you think about '98 and how popular it was, the steroid, the chase for 61 with Sosa and McGuire, and how popular that was, and then Barry Bonds hit, was it 400 that season?
Yeah.
That same season, he hit 400. He got 400 home runs, 400 stolen bases that year, and that was put to the 9th page of the sports section when he did it. Nobody cared, right? He sat there. I think he did it in Miami, and 5,200 people showed up to see him do that, and nobody cared. And he's like, you think that those two guys are what baseball is? If you want to see that stuff in a real baseball player, I'm going to show you what happens. And then beyond the 73 home runs, the all-time, the highest slugging percentage in a single season, pretty sure the highest OPS in a single season. He was forced out of baseball at 44. His OPS is still in the 900. This guy still should have been a DH in the American League for another 4 years.
Absolutely.
But what shocks me is that when he started to reach the Icarus level, because he flew too high, right? He touched the sun, and people did not take to him breaking the records, the Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron's all-time home run record, and they didn't take to that the same way. They weren't cheering the way that people cheered 70 when McGuire hit 70, right? That was just universal baseball. Chicks dig the long ball, commercials everywhere, and Barry says, you know what? I'm going to show you what that does to a real super baseball player, and he became something else. And that really led, I think, to the public opinion of steroids, of us booing those home runs, of us booing him. And then steroids are out of baseball 2005, right?
I really like this take that the 1998 season is like a Barry Bonds supervillain origin story.
Yeah, it is.
400 home runs and 400 stolen bases on a career is Hall of Fame worthy in and of itself.
The only one.
And you're right. The fact that
the only person to do it
unnoticed while Bonds and Sosa McGuire and Sosa were chasing each other for home runs.
And it's a great point how celebrated that was. Like, I was 16 at the time. I remember running home from school to check the paper and see who hit something the night before, right? I mean, I'm really aging myself here, but yeah.
What's a newspaper?
Before the internet, there were papers, guys.
Let me just add to what Joel was saying there, because he asked, was Bonds, somehow responsible for getting steroids out? Gentlemen, I wish I could remember his name. Do you remember the congressman from Colorado? Major League Baseball kept saying to Congress, no, we don't have a problem. Because Congress wanted to step in and saying, hey, this isn't setting the example for the kids. We think you do have a steroid problem. Baseball kept saying, there's nothing to see here. What? Then the congressman in Colorado said, well, it is absolutely against our laws to have steroids in your system. When that San Francisco Giant plane touches down, everybody will be tested. And only the ones that are clean will be headed back on that airplane. Now, Bud Selig and Major League Baseball was majorly forced into action. So, Joel, you reminded me when you said that, Joel, my God, I think you're onto something there.
Baseball sure loves to wait until there's a big hump to do before they do anything, eh? Like the sticky stuff shit. Like they just wait until it's blowing up in their face, and then they're like, "Oh, I guess we'll take action."
This reminds me of a theory that I've always had when you talk about, they just flew too close to the sun. They got carried away with the steroids. They could have just been nice and discreet about it and gone on their way, and nobody would have cared. It's the same with robbing a bank, I find, right? Like, I am so confident that I could rob any bank I want and get away with it. But the problem is you get greedy and you want to keep robbing more banks, and that's how they catch you.
So everybody, make sure you're looking your best on camera right now, though. You'll want to look good during his trial when they're showing his foot.
All right, that's cool. Sean, you got some 2 cents there on...
Yeah, I'll just jump in, and then I've got to hit the road here. But everything everybody has said has been bang on, and I think the whole moral high horse stuff, just people, it's the same people who were rushing to get an interview with Barry Bonds who are now saying he's not a Hall of Fame player, and that to me, like, it's just ridiculous. So that's the only thing I'll add.
The hypocrisy. It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's thick.
Can I make one sentence point?
Sure.
Imagine if like StatCast numbers had existed in Barry Bonds' era.
Oh, good lord!
Like exit velocities that we would see.
Yeah.
Like imagine what we.
They'd have to
125
invent a new
exit
stat
velos,
for
like
a new stat for every ball that went into McCovey Cove.
yeah. Doesn't he have half of them still? Still have half the splashdowns? Or his?
Let's pause here and let Sean take off. Sean, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, man, thank you.
Where can everybody find you, Sean?
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's good to talk baseball as quick as it was. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at DoyleJFTC. I'm the founder and senior editor at Jays from the Couch. We've got our weekly podcast. We go live tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, and that's where you can catch us. And same thing, get your live questions and answers and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, that's where I'll be.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Sean. Hopefully we do this again and see you next Sunday. And if not, I'm sure another Sunday down the road.
You got it. Thanks very much.
All right. Cheers. All right. Well, enough Barry Bonds talk. I watched an interesting video the other day on Alex Rodriguez. And it was I think it was his first year on the ballot this year for the Hall of Fame. Obviously did not make it in. But it was by Bailey at Foolish Baseball there. Did a great little piece on A-Rod, asshole of the league for decades, essentially. Maybe I'll have to link to it in the video description after this if anybody has 20 minutes to kill. Great video. But basically the takeaway was he's really going hard in the paint on this, rehabilitation of his personal image. He obviously does the Shark Tank stuff. He's this businessman, entrepreneur, having a lot of success in that field, right? Dating and I guess engaged to for a period of time to J-Lo. Every time he's on ESPN, he's talking about, small ball. He's always talking about the significance of bunting and everything like that, right? I mean, 10 years from now, let's talk A-Rod's chances of getting voted in.
Yeah, he probably will pull it off. I don't know. He should be in the Hall of Fame, right? Like if we're gonna say that Barry Bonds should be in, A-Rod should obviously be in the Hall of Fame. As a Jays fan, I hate him, but only because of the damage he did to us, right?
Shouldn't be in for the same score on the asshole factor, right? Like, was one of the biggest assholes, most hated players in all of baseball for a long time, right? Joel, go ahead.
I was gonna say, imagine that you need you split the stats like 75% and 25%. So it's like 25% character, or you need 26% character and 74% stats, right? And any combination of those two to get to 75% gets you in, right? A-Rod gets 0 on the character scale. He gets 0. That's like he's the shortstop, the power hitting shortstop, the 5-tool shortstop of all time, and the asshole of the game, the asshole of the generation, right? So, if that has a fact, if that is, if you need at least a 1 to get in on the character scale, he doesn't get it, right?
What's so funny is this is where, we just talked about how David Ortiz probably would have been a second or third ballot Hall of Famer had he played for the Kansas City Royals. But who knows? Maybe A-Rod with the opposite works for him, right? If he wasn't so in the spotlight, he wouldn't be so hated, right?
That's a great point.
Didn't he create his own steroid company? Didn't he try to push his own type of steroids? The things that he did, he had his own gambling, his own underground gambling ring.
There's definitely some great documentaries on the shenanigans. Let's just say shenanigans that A-Rod.
Baseball doesn't exist. Did a really good one.
He's in a good position because he can let the dust settle from everybody else from that steroid era and see if Clemens and Bonds truly at the end of the day don't get in. Now neither does he. It's not hugely embarrassing for him, and the brand that you gentlemen are correct that he's building doesn't take a hit. If the dust settles and the other guys do get in, then jerk or no jerk, there's just zero doubt that A-Rod should be in it.
And that's kind of where I think it's an interesting kind of mental exercise to play through here is like 10 years from now, right? Like he has 9 more shots on the ballot. That's a lot of time to pass. We have already seen this huge, massive, like public outcry at Barry Bonds not being in the Hall of Fame, right? Like there's got to be some heat that the baseball writers of America are feeling from this, right? Like there's got to be some sort of an impact or a fallout. And I think A-Rod might benefit just by the fact that he's 9 years later to the issue, right? And on top of that, obviously, he is running a very successful rebranding campaign that he's working on. So, Joel, you don't think so?
No, I do. I
still think he's an asshole.
Oh, when he was playing. Yeah, he was. Think about him swatting at balls or shouting. Was it behind John McDonald?
I love that you bring that up. I forget the rookie that was playing third base for the Jays at the time when he was running by and he yelled, "I got it!" and they just let it drop. Yeah,
it's like sure, compete. Like you can come in and say, "Well, his compete level was up here." It's like, sure. Well, I guess so.
It's funny you brought up that moment where he was running down the first baseline. I don't remember which team they were playing against.
Red Sox.
Was it Red Sox? Go to tag him with the ball, and he's like slap it away as he's going. I just rewatched Mr. Baseball. Scott and I are doing a movie review on the Tom Selleck classic, Mr. Baseball, and it's the same thing. Tom Selleck did it over in Japan. He body checks a guy to try to
totally body checks the
runs like 2 steps off the baseline to make contact. So I thought, oh, that's great. So, anyways,
now Kami, I'll check Kami on the 0 that he gave A-Rod for his 24% because A-Rod, devil's advocate, Joel, A-Rod would join the chat and say, "Hey, I went to the New York Yankees and went over to third base and didn't say a word. I was the best shortstop on earth, and I became the best third baseman on earth, and I didn't ruffle any of those feathers. That was Derek Jeter's team. I came in and fell in line." I think he can point to something like that.
I got you. And he even did the thing for Cal at the All-Star game when he did it over. So I'll play it. I'll join on you, and I'll gang up on me and say, "Hey, Rob, I guess I'm long."
This is Tommy on Prime right now.
Hey, the guy is unbelievably talented, and I think he's just this two-sided human being, right? Like, and when he wants to be, he can be a great guy. And then when there's nobody's watching, hopefully your wife isn't hanging out with him or something, you know? Can you trust the guy? Is kind of I don't know. A-Rod.
Taylor, what are your thoughts on A-Rod?
I mean, as a baseball player, I remember as a kid, like I always wanted to be like A-Rod, like shortstop. He made the position cool, you know. But like that was before I was able to watch SportsCenter and like start following players more closely. And like now, A-Rod's just kind of goofy to me. Like he's just like, he's like that popular kid like in high school that's like popular by default because his family's rich or something. And it's like socially awkward. Like that's just kind of how like A-Rod's like the kind of guy that's like, look at me, like I have to do everything, and it's just like forced. It just seems kind of goofy. But as a baseball player, and honestly, like for me, like he was more of a staple with like steroids for me. Just like Barry Bonds was kind of towards the end, like when I started to really watch baseball. But A-Rod was always kind of in that little circle for me. But I think baseball player, like doesn't he have like he was getting paid 2 mega contracts by 2 teams, like he's worth that every penny. Yeah. So and I don't know. Person-wise, I know we've all noticed, like we said, he's trying to rebuild his personality, and like I don't know. I think as a baseball player, yeah, he gets in for me. But then again, like if Bonds isn't and A-Rod is because he's done this rebrand, like I would have an issue with that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, of course. All right, let's. I just want to bring up one thing with A-Rod, which is maybe the craziest stat to me of all time for any baseball hitter. 696 career home runs. I don't know how you don't come back for half a season and hit 4 more. I mean, we're looking at Albert Pujols right now, who's 41 on paper, but maybe he might be as old as Tom Brady. and he's sitting at 679 for career home runs.
And Adam, how many of those runs were left on the table because he was serving those big time suspensions? Remember, he had to sue Major League Baseball because Major League Baseball said, "You are finished here. You are no longer part of this sport." And he said, "What?" And his lawyer said, "What?" And at the end of the day, that got straightened out. But absolutely, he probably feels robbed of that.
That's
a great point. Yeah. Poor A-Rod, I guess, is the takeaway.
Oh, jeez.
Poor kid. All right. Mark, let's do we have anything from YouTube? Any thoughts on the
there's a couple questions in the live chat. One of them relates directly to the Hall of Fame talk, so it probably makes sense to ask that now.
Yeah.
Are the voters, in your opinion, going to vote for Altuve when his time comes up because of 2017?
Interesting.
I think I'm just going to jump in with my opinion real quick here because I need to take a little boys' room break. But I think that as long as he has Hall of Fame numbers, it shouldn't matter. But that's my opinion. I mean, I hate that the Astros cheated. Like, it drives me nuts that whole thing happened. But also, let's not be insane. Obviously, the Houston Astros were not the only team doing these tricks, right? Like, even the year before when the Red Sox got busted with their, what was it, their iPhone watch or whatever?
Apple.
Yeah, the Apple Watch. Yeah, so I don't know.
So you're just a total free pass to cheating.
Well, no, but I don't know. Like, the Hall of Fame is already so full of cheaters. Like, what are we doing?
No,
I
know.
Let's follow the numbers then, I guess.
I mean, that is the simplest argument for Clemens and Bonds, right? Is like, well, Clemens was pitching against steroid users, so his numbers are that much more impressive. And, Barry Bonds was hitting home runs against steroid users, so his numbers are that much more impressive. So, like, there is that argument to be made. It does let people off the hook for cheating. But I don't hate it. I don't hate your opinion there.
Good to know.
All right, enjoy the little boys' room.
Can I cut in just for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I did a video on TikTok, and he always gets forgotten about because but Rafael Palmeiro has like 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, and he's completely forgotten about in this whole thing. And it's like there are levels to steroid use. There are guys, well, like if you rate your steroid use, there's the 15-year veteran who uses steroids to hang around for one more year or 2 more years at the end of his career. And then there's Bonds, who literally became a Marvel supervillain, like you said there. And so there's that. But like when you look at Palmeiro, was a guy, didn't really change physically from the day he started to the day he ended. Got all the check marks for a Hall of Fame career, and we don't even talk about the guy anymore, right? And it's that big asshole moment when he was testifying to Congress, right? Oh yeah, I know. And it's
pointing the finger. It's such a comical asshole move that has been memed, and it's.
Oh, it has been.
If he didn't just point the finger, like even if he just said I didn't do steroids, but it's that pointing the finger that is such a spiteful and easy thing to
Hall of Fame gone on that discussion. Though compared to all the other guys, right? Like he looks so foolish, and so many of them said they didn't do it, right? Everybody denies, but just for me, a guy who visually, I did not see Rafael Palmeiro go to 230 pounds and start there's no peak season where his numbers just it's a steady climb to a peak, and then he gets old, and then it's done, and that to me it's shocking that Manny Ramirez, another guy, what a hitter he was, right? So many of these incredible guys that once I think one domino falls, these guys are Hall of Famers. Sammy Sosa,
Yeah. No, it's I feel like it's gonna sort itself out whether baseball wants it to or not, and I think eventually they're all gonna get in because.
Well, those guys are all on the Today's Game agenda in December. It's not just Bonds and Clemens; it's everybody that Joel just mentioned there. And for Palmeiro, I think he was disproven. I don't even think he made it back to his car. That was part of the comical part. I don't even think he made it back to his car before the news broke that, absolutely he did, and here's the proof. But when I think of Palmeiro, honestly, it was always his approach. Like I think of him very fondly from a baseball standpoint. He had such a good approach at the plate. So I'm with Joel, lumping him into this mix as well. I wouldn't mind today's game committee, this veterans committee in December, taking a long, hard look. Now, they've already taken a hard look in 2016 and passed on Mark McGuire. So they're not out here making it rain with inductions. Yeah. Don't get me wrong on that. Mm-hmm. But, man, I think what Adam was saying earlier, we've just never seen backlash like this. This is going to be hanging over. Big Poppy's induction is going to be a fiesta because it's Big Flippin' Poppy. But this is going to be hanging over it, man. This is going nowhere, this story.
By the way, Joel, I loved the TikTok you did where you showed Rafael Palmeiro's face and then you showed his face again 10 years later, and then you showed Barry Bonds' face, and then it was just Thanos with the picture. I love that.
Well, yeah, you take him from Pittsburgh Pirates Bonds, and then you show like 2003 Bonds, and the head his hat size went from a 10 to a 13. It got 30% bigger.
Maybe that's why Bonds is taking the biggest lumps, is because he truly physically transformed the most. Like, when you think of the steroid era, it's hard not to think of Barry Bonds, right? Like, he just night and day from, what was it, like 92 to 2002? It's like two different dudes.
He's like, you want to see what this can do? You really want to see what this stuff does to a baseball player? I got all the ability in the world without it. Griffey was my favorite player of all time, and that guy his body just fell apart, and he just let it. And it's just like, it broke my heart when I watched him, but I love him so much now. I'm like, hey, that guy just, he just got hurt, and he's like, I'm not going to do juice. I got a big belly at the end of my career.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. Ken Griffey Jr., I think, is a beloved figure universally, and I think we can just leave it at that. Anybody else have anything they want to throw into the Hall of Fame discussion before we move on?
The Hall of Fame is a big deal for me, man. That's why I'm so passionate, and I'm so glad we're talking about it. There are numerous family vacations that we took to Cooperstown, New York, to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and that's part of my whole thing on this. It's not like you're in Cooperstown and you see a bus go by and you realize, oh, is that right? The Baseball Hall of Fame. No. If you're in Cooperstown, you're going to the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's part of my whole point here. Yeah. Take it as read that Bonds had the checkered past. Everybody going through the hall knows this. I say the same thing for Altuve. Take it as read that he had that people know about 2017. We don't need to further the punishment. So I was totally not down, but I understood the human nature of making Bonds wait the 9 years because he was so prickly with it. I understood that. But now even the people who are along for that ride and wanted to see Bonds get that comeuppance, even they now are saying, oh, you did what in the 10th year? Oh, well, to be honest with you, that's a bridge too far. Oh, wait a minute now. So the uproar is there. Even people who don't like baseball at all know the trials and tribulations of Barry Bonds. So that's my main point here. What's the end game of not having him in right now? This is egg all over their face. And at this point, it's self-inflicted. And it's a big deal for me. I'm super bummed, guys.
Well, it's the first time baseball's ever self-inflicted pain on itself. So it's really shocking to see.
Uncharted territory, is it?
Sorry to keep going on the topic, but if they're not going to go back in time and pull out old players who have done really, really scandalous things, Ty Cobb beat up a guy with no hands, and Cap Anson, notorious racist, and Whitey Ford admitted he cheated all the time, and Gaylord Perry used goop on the sinker ball every single time he threw the pitch, right? And admitted to all these things. So if those guys are in and they're safe, and we're not going to pull them out, then you can't do this. How are these guys getting punished now when those transgressions in the past are at another level? Ty Cobb beating up a man with no hands, and that's during the game.
Quite a few Ty Cobb stories too.
There's
that are reason enough to keep him out of the hall. One last thought on Hall of Fame before we move on to our next topic: Robo umps. Joel, obviously you cover this at depth through last season, but sticky stuff for pitchers. Let's just take a little bit of a projection forward, and again, Taylor, you can keep your mouth shut on this one, but how do we handle pitchers who were busted with sticky stuff? Or is just everyone who was caught with it ineligible for the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so at all. I literally, my channel is focused around that as a that's how I got all of my followers. Pretty much was covering foreign substance in 2021, and I like Garrett Cole would be the person I did the most videos about. I would argue that he goes on for the next 9 years, puts up Hall of Fame numbers. He's the first ballot Hall of Fame, and I'm the guy who got millions of people to see him using foreign substance, right? So it's just
let me clarify this though. I'm not saying do you think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, because we just all agreed that we think Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Do you think that Baseball Writers of America will hold this against pitchers the way they held steroids against?
No, I don't think they will.
No,
I don't think so. Not one bit.
I don't think so.
The scandal, and it's just like, think about the scandal in the context of how the public experienced it. Steroids was something that it changed the game over. Canseco starts really using it in '88, and then it spreads throughout the league all the way through 2005, and then you're starting to suspend players for it, right? So that's a big hunk of time. That's more than a decade, right? Foreign substance has always been a part of the game, and it will always be a part of the game. Subtle usage of something else that's not really permitted, but like spider tack and that stuff. That's something completely different. With super gluing the John Means literally can't get his fingers out of his glove is something completely different. And but at the same time, the scandal just doesn't have the weight that the other, like the cocaine scandal or gambling, or this thing just blew through the game. They found enforcement. They enacted it instantly, and
especially once they made it such a big deal, and then you watched. Yeah, there were obviously some pitchers that affected. Obviously, it did affect people. But for the most part, you kind of watched. I mean, even if you look at Garrett Cole's numbers, he figured it out, right?
Yeah. I literally said at the beginning of the year when his ERA was 140, I'm like, Garrett Cole minus the foreign substance, his ERA is going to go to 280. I think it went to 305 or 310 or something. It's these guys aren't. You don't completely neuter them. There's a couple pitches Yu Darvish really, really fell apart. And that was kind of oh no, is you still got it anymore? I don't know. That's mean to say, but Corbin Burns, the dominant pitchers of the league, their ERAs are where you want them to be. Low twos. Robbie Ray winning the Cy Young at about a 280 in the American League. 275. If you're popping that as the league leader for ERA in the American League, and then National League's about 225, that's where you want it to be. You don't want league leaders in ERA in the 160s. That's not exciting baseball, right? So, yeah.
The pitchers from this era right now, from the sticky stuff, they've got that get out of jail free card, because they could just say to anyone that calls them on it, hey, are you kidding me? Major League, I couldn't tell. There was no rhyme or reason to the baseball we were using. I couldn't tell from one pitch to the next what the hell was going on with the baseball. So it was either 98 at somebody's head, or it was 98 as a competitive pitch. You go ahead and choose.
I know where you guys are going with this, but I don't think, and I know he's one of the nicest guys, universally beloved. I just don't think Trevor Bauer's going to make it into the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
All right, let's move on from there. I do just want to touch on for anybody who has been watching along now, the Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Kansas City Chiefs in overtime.
Hey, Sauce's streak is over. He's got one.
Victory. Let's go.
One question: Did you bet on them at some point, because you had failed so many times previously that you're like, I'm going to bet on them because I know my betting on them will make them you switched it, right? You reversed the betting.
This wasn't some voodoo stuff, no?
No voodoo. It was strictly my man crush for Joe Burrow. That was it.
There you go.
We gotta talk about Tom Brady retiring. I know this isn't baseball related, but just
technically he didn't retire.
Wow. Okay. So let's get into this here. Before we do, I just want to acknowledge the fact that 5 years ago when we started seeing Peyton Manning retire and like Drew Brees was getting older and Tom Brady was like approaching his early 50s too, it just felt bleak for like any NFL fan. We didn't have a lot of like young superstar quarterbacks to be excited about. It was like, oh yeah, Ryan Tannehill. Right? Like that was like, well, hopefully he turns into something, right? I just feel like in 2022, the NFL is in good hands. Like we have 4 or 5 young superstar freak athletes between Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow has established himself as very legitimate at this point. I'm just excited to be a football fan, and I was a little bit worried maybe 5 years ago. So
There you go.
I do want to ask Taylor though, as a Seahawks fan, are you getting ready to say goodbye to Russell Wilson this offseason?
No, I trust his word that he's going to stay.
All right.
But I don't think it would be bad if the Seahawks had to move on from him, and because we don't have any first round picks, because Jamal Adams. But if that's something that we had to do, I mean, what a run, with Russell and the Pete Carroll era, that was some of the best times of my life. That Super Bowl and everything, and it would be sad to watch Russell Wilson go, but maybe it is one of those things where it's like not like a Tom Brady Patriots thing, like he did his job. Now he goes and plays another 6 years somewhere else and builds a career there. So we'll see, but no, I'll definitely no matter what happens, I'll miss him. So.
Let me tell you, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I wish Ben Roethlisberger spent the last 6 years somewhere else. He has been tough to watch back there, especially and we just mentioned all these like young, athletic, mobile quarterbacks. He's been such a statue for the last 4 years. It's been painful. But
well, I'm super upset on 2 fronts. Number one, I'm a Dolphins fan, so I'm going to Google what you're talking about playoffs or something like this. I'm going to Google. Sounds fun. I'm going to look into that. But Adam, with a just open-handed slap right to the foot. Why do you got to bring me back to the Ryan Tannehill days? What? I thought this was an enjoyable time to spend together. What just happened?
Oh man. Well, can we just move on from football?
Sure.
This is.
Well,
it started out with
technically,
a really positive tone, and I feel like it's taken a dark turn. So let's get back to something here. Mark, do you have anything for us from Discord?
There was a quick question here by the way, technically the Tom Brady stuff could have been turned around into a baseball conversation, because I read today that Tom Brady was the last active pro athlete that was signed by the Montreal Expos. So that's baseball.
Oh, cool.
Piece of trivia. I like it. That's some trivia.
There's a quick question in chat for Sauce. Ask, what's your favorite memory from the 2021 season?
Favorite memory? I mean, just for me personally, I would have to say pitching in Seattle, in my hometown, and having all my family and friends there. Definitely probably my biggest highlight. I mean, you could go with the Miguel Cabrera home run. I mean, that was pretty cool to witness history, to watch Cabrera. I mean, I was like, man, I watched Cabrera from when he was on the Marlins, and now he's doing this, and I'm sitting here in Toronto watching. That was pretty cool. Yeah. But I would say definitely, the Seattle one was my best memory for sure.
What's funny, man, is I was at that game, and my wife and I were sitting behind the home plate, and there was literally a row of 15 people in Sasado shirts, and she right away, she's like, they've got to be his friends, like, for sure. I'm like, just quiet down. She's like, I'm going to go ask them. Like, and yeah, sure enough, they're like, yeah, of course.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That's awesome. Yeah, I was, I definitely will say I was more nervous for that than I was making my debut. And it was pretty funny. I'm glad I did it, because it kind of got the nerves out of the way. I got to laugh at myself. But the first pitch off the mound was like, and luckily it was a lefty, but it was in the right-handed batter's box. I was like, oh, okay, well, we're here. Okay, great, But then I figured it out after that. We got out of the inning perfectly fine. But that was special.
Well, it's kind of cool because I know when you first came on the show, that was one thing that both of us talked about was like how exciting it was for you to play in Seattle. And of course, nobody brought up that who knows if you would be still with the team there. And of course, you were, but yeah. So great job, making it all the way to Seattle, buddy.
Made it.
Can I just ask Sauce real quick here? Because my favorite Sauce moment from his rookie year was his debut at Fenway Park. And Sauce, it was either the bottom of the fourth, I'm going to say the bottom of the fifth, and a full count pitch, and you struck out J.D. Martinez. So I'd love for you to take us through that at bat. That was epic.
The 3-2, the 3-2 curveball. Yeah, I remember that one because that one was, obviously knowing JD, and they always talked about, they want to throw fastballs up in the zone, just kind of the approach that you take with JD, and you don't want to lay off speed, but like I just felt I was like sitting there when we got to 3-2. I didn't really want to throw him a fastball. He's a great hitter, very, very smart. And I just knew, I was like, okay, if I could put this in the zone, he's going to swing at this. So please, and it was Reese back there. And I was like, please, Reese, put down that two. And when he put down that two, I was like, this is a strikeout. I just felt it was one of those things, and it went, and it was just perfect executed pitch. And he swung at it, and I was like, man, I struck out J.D. Martinez. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next topic here. We're already an hour in, and we've only really covered the one topic there with the Hall of Fame. Obviously, a big topic. But let's move on now to one of the new announcements. Robo umps are going to be in official affiliated minor league baseball this year. Was it AAA?
Yeah. So
it's coming, right? It's inevitable. I could see Taylor's already rolling his eyes pretty hard at this. Can we all agree though that this is just happening now? Like, this is no longer a test. They're just working out the kinks and calibrating everything at this point. Like, they've made up their mind and it's coming.
I hope so.
You hope so.
Oh my God, Robo umps yesterday for me. We've had defined parameters of what a strike is in baseball since the sport was defined. So why is there human aspect, human interpretation that comes into play here? I hate it. I want the balls and strikes to be uniform. When we grew up playing, you went to the school, didn't you? And you put the chalk outline of the strike zone on the board on the wall, didn't you? And if the ball was within there, that was a strike. The brick wasn't framing. You weren't getting bad calls, opinion calls. You weren't getting anything like why is there human interpretation allowed in here? I want it cut and dry, balls and strikes. Robo umps yesterday for me.
Taylor,
Sauce obviously agrees 100%, so we just can skip him altogether here.
The Robo umps, it just don't take away the human side of the way from the game for me, because that's just how baseball is. That's what makes baseball fun. It's like, I heard like down in the lower levels how it went, and it's just like balls will cross that aren't normally called strikes. They'll cross the plate and they call it a strike. They said you don't really notice a difference with it. It's just like kind of when like a ball isn't normally called a strike, it's a strike because it read on the board or whatever. And that's just not fun. Like, I like, like if I throw a strike and the umpire calls it a ball, like that's the side where I can just be like, during the game, like that interaction. Now you're taking away that interaction, and it's like taking away that rush. Like, the human side of the game is what makes baseball so great, right? And it's like, I just don't think that we should be changing it as much as we are, going into like the DH, like now, like universal DH. Like, as a kid, like you dream as a pitcher, you get to try and potentially get a hit, and there, and like, who doesn't want to see a pitcher hit? Because I'm probably just as good at hitting as you guys are, and so like that, that's just this human side of the game for me. Is like, don't bring the Robo umps. It's just, like now we're gonna miss like managers arguing balls and strikes. Like, those are the best. Like, you're just taking away too much from the game, I think. And like you guys said, it's not a matter of like, will this work? It's just a matter of like, hey, we're just gonna do this to say that we're testing it out, but it's coming. So it sucks.
One aspect of this that I would actually love to hear what you think about, Taylor, is I think it's really curious that they're implementing it in AAA. However, the majors, they're still going to be, called by a human. How much, can that mess with a pitcher? Like, you get used to that Robo ump strike zone, and then you get up and you need to adjust on the fly. Do you think that'll have some sort of impact? Yeah.
I mean, I mean, honestly, to be honest, I didn't even really think about that, like the going up and down part, like, you know, that, yeah, I think of big time, like, you know, you're taking, you're doing like I said, like, you never know what you're going to get, right? So you're down in AAA and you throw a pitch that's, they call a strike or whatever. And then you go down in the big leagues and now, you know, you're just like, you're focusing on that one pitch, right? You know, that success, I have success there, whatever, because it says a strike. Now you go down there and it's a ball and it's a ball. And, you know, it's just like, you can't have both, right? So it's just
because that's the thing is I feel like guys would adjust if it's the same across the board, but now that it's kind of different at different levels, it could be a problem.
Yeah, you're just doing, it's just too, like, if they want to do that, do it in like double A, you know, I don't know, but the triple A, with it being like guys can go down up and down all the time, you know, like guys like with me with options, if you go up and down all the time, you're getting two different things, you know, like with the balls, and then you go up there and it's the seams are tighter or lower, you know, it's just like, just stop messing with it, and, you know, let's just keep it the game the way that it is, you know. It's just ridiculous to me, the Robo umps. But
we talked with Joe Siddle of Sportsnet last week, and he brought up a good point, and I've said this before, but like, one of the worst things that's happened to baseball from a viewer experience in terms of the strike zone has been that little white projection that they put on TV. Because it's like, first of all, who knows if that's even really accurate anyways. It's the same size regardless of whether it's Altuve at the plate or Aaron Judge at the plate. So like right there, you know, it's kind of broken, right? Would we have the same outcry if we're just watching the pitch on the screen? I don't know. Like, can you just see where?
I don't think
but
so.
It's got the box, and then it shows, and it's okay. Here's the 98 mile, and it was, you know, outside of this box, and then the you know, the ump calls it a strike, and then there's the outcry. But it's like, if we didn't have that box, would anybody really know any better, right? Like, I don't know.
That box, they set that up before the game. I don't know if they've ever perfected this, but they set that box up, the cameras and everything, before the game. Now you got 50,000 people coming into the game. Aren't things moving? Like, how accurate is that? To your point, like, how accurate is that really? I think that's just more from an entertainment standpoint. What was Joe Siddle, who was in the entertainment game, was he bad mouthing it?
Yeah, he was not a fan of that white box.
Interesting.
I think where I feel about robo umps, and they are, I feel like, inevitable. I think when it comes to technology, just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. And I think that's how I feel about robo umps. Just because the technology has gotten to a point where we can track pitch location and everything like this, it doesn't mean we should. I mean, if we want to really play that fantasy out to the nth degree, you know, at some point we're going to be able to put sensors in gloves and cleats and bases, and now all of a sudden, safe or out isn't even an ump call either. It's just, well, the sensor said the ball was in the glove, his foot was on the bag, so the bag lights up red because he's out, or green.
It totally kills the romance of the game a bit, right?
Right? Like, oh, I mean, you'd have a close play and a guy's running down the line, and then is it going to light up green? Is it going to light up red? Like, I mean, we could. I'm actually
all right. I'm all right with
that work, but we should not.
I'm all right with robo umps, but what I don't want to see happen is all of a sudden the game lengthened because of it, right? Like how video replay came in, and all of a sudden now video replay is taking forever. Like if the robo umps come in, like there should be. It's the call is the call. Like I don't want people being able to like start arguing with the robo umps, and like now they're taking video replay of it and stuff. Like. Yeah. But,
oh my god! All right, anybody have anything else they want to add on robo umps before we move on to?
Yeah, I got a few points.
Okay.
It takes framing away from catchers, which is, you know, like to me a catcher is the way that he calls the game, and his framing ability, his blocking ability, right? And you're taking a core element of what a catcher is away when you're taking away framing. But you're also taking a pitcher's ability to expand a strike zone. Okay. And like that's an art form that wouldn't exist anymore, that you start throwing more to the middle of and as the game goes by and you establish the strike zone and with the umpire, your two-seamer gets a little bit further out and your slider gets a little bit further out, and you expand and the plate widens. And the greatest pitchers of all time had the ability to widen the plate and earn that favor with an umpire, and relationships and all of that stuff. And at Taylor's point of the no more coaches coming out and getting tossed, to me, is one of the greatest moments in baseball. It's that just such a contrasting moment to how slow the game is and how methodical the game is. And when you have a manager coming out and he is fumed over how that plate has been called all game, and he comes out and he just covers the home plate in dirt and just disrespects the umpire because he's had enough. And I just love that moment so much, and it happens. And I don't take that away from me. It's such a beautiful moment. But to me, the concept, why can't it be a little bit of both, right? Like, we think about human umpires and we think about robot umpires. To me, why can't it be a tool that, like, an umpire has an audio ping in their ear and they can choose to use it? They feel like they're on and they're done. Think about Craig McTavish as a hockey player, of the helmet being grandfathered out of the league, right? It's something where I could see it being introduced to umpires, but, like, don't tell a modern day umpire, don't neuter him. Don't take away what it is to be an amazing umpire who does call a game 99% accurate, right? Like,
those are great points, man. Those are great points. The catching aspect is one thing I hadn't really put too much thought into, and you're right. Like, the ability to grow the strike zone and to frame pitches and stuff. Yeah.
Tell you how in the minority I am here. I want those red and green bases as well as the Robo umps.
You're like, put sensors in it.
I'm just saying it'd be interesting if it was a tool. It was a tool that an umpire had at his disposal. It's this little box where he he can turn it on and go bing, bing, and if he feels like if he felt like he heard 20 strikes and he was going to call all those 20 strikes, he shuts it off. It's something that it's a tool at his disposal. He's like, I'm not seeing this guy's pitches. Maybe I'm really off today. So I think and then maybe if it gets grandfathered in and it gets better and better and better, and we accept it 20 years from now, where it's a completely different technological process that we understand and we can trust. But, I think you've got to take a slower approach and make it a tool at their disposal instead of human umpires are now robots. It's Terminator.
On, guys, if you're going to take my points and make a whole bunch of good points against it, I'm not just.
Oh man! All right, well, let's pivot from there then. Unless anybody else has something they want to add on Robo umps, but let's pivot slightly now and talk about one way that baseball is potentially going to speed up the length of a game, and that is through the use of a pitch clock. How are we feeling about a pitch clock? I'm not saying it's coming to AAA and it's inevitable, right? Like, I do think that is a little more up for debate and up in the air.
Have you ever pitched with a pitch clock, Sauce?
Yeah, I pitched with a pitch clock in, I believe it was either low A or high A. I think maybe both. And
did it make a big difference?
No, you don't notice anything really. Like, there's like a leeway too that the umpires gave, like, because there'd be guys that it would get down to like one, and there's some guys still going through his signs, and so you don't really like notice it. I mean, there's been multiple times where I've been a part of it where it made like a difference in a game because an umpire took the rule too seriously, right? And so he was like, right when it hit zero, he was like, okay, he didn't deliver the pitch, he's whatever, it's a ball or whatever it was. Or there was one where we had a guy named Connor Panis. He was hitting and he didn't get in the box in like the certain amount of time. So like, that's good, right? If a hitter's taking that long, like whatever. But like pitching, I don't think you really notice it at all, unless a umpire is going to be like, hey, hurry it up. And I didn't really find it to speed up the game.
That was my next question. That's funny. Yeah.
Granted, it was a high A game, and so in the middle of, Florida, so in June. So I don't know. I don't think it really speeds up the game. I don't think it's going to make a big difference. I don't think it's going to be something that fans really notice, and players probably wouldn't notice. I don't really understand the pitch clock. It's just, I don't know. I think it's just there to appease the fans. Be like, hey, look, we're trying. We have something.
We're trying to speed this up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. Kind of pointless.
Well, to Sauce's point, they're literally, I think the average baseball game is around 3 hours and 5 minutes, around there. And Manfred has said many times he wants to get that under three hours. And he says that because he says kids growing up right now are so athletic. They have the choice between baseball, basketball, and football. And we in baseball, we're losing out left, right, and center. We have to have a quicker game. That concept I'm down with, but going about it this way, the day that one of us, if it happens to any of you, reach out to me, let me know, Craig, you were wrong on that. The day I hear from a young player coming up and saying, oh, you know what, I was going to go dedicate myself to basketball, but did you guys notice baseball shaved 5 minutes off the average time? Did you guys notice that? The day that happens, I will stand corrected. But until then, I think we're all on the same page here. This pitch clock is gimmicky. And Sauce and team, what happens when it's in the playoffs? And there's big decisions to be made pitch by pitch. I don't want that running through that pitcher's mind. Fair is fair, even if it's against the jet. Like, I don't want that in addition on the pitcher and catcher's mind. I want them being very comfortable with the pitch they're about to throw. I think that's fair.
Playoffs is a good point. That's a good point. In playoffs, it shouldn't exist if they're going to do it. I don't think they should do it either way, but yeah.
Yeah, because I think the pitch clock too would take away, like, especially in the playoffs, like that intensity of like, okay, hey, what is that pitcher thinking right here on that 1-1 count? What is the hitter thinking right here with the runner on first? You know, now it's just like, hey, hurry up, please make the pitch, because everybody now, you know, how we are is like, you know, we want that instant gratification because we have our phones. Everything needs to be immediate, right? And so, but that's what makes baseball so great, is that tension between every pitch. And if we're speeding that process up, again, we're taking the romance out of baseball. So shouldn't be something that we should be focusing on. But yeah.
There's so many better ways to speed the game up than a pitch clock. Like,
here's
figure out video replay. My God, the amount of times you sit and wait, and then they don't even overturn it, and then it's still wrong. Like, they're still showing. Like, it's like, what are we doing?
The reason for this. That's the reason for this. Baseball video replay is the reason for the bald head right there.
Well, here's one idea for speeding up the game. The average amount of time between third out of one inning and the first pitch of the next inning was about 3.5 minutes between each side, right? So between each inning, between each, you know, top and bottom of the inning, over 17 changes take place in a typical, you know, 9-inning game, right? So 3.5 minutes times 17, that's 59.5 minutes where we're just changing sides of the field.
Yes.
So how about we just hustle out there, guys? You know, give them 90 seconds. The only person that it really should affect is like whoever's leading off the next inning, right?
Yeah, cutting down advertising time, Adam, is not how you're going to sell the MLB on this.
All right, you poked a hole in that plan, Scott. All right, well, let's move on. Anybody else have anything they want to add to pitch clock?
I was just going to say that, I don't think anybody, nobody in here, we're all diehard baseball fans, so we don't care. We want more baseball. I don't care if it's a 4.5-hour game or if it's a 2.5-hour game. The length of games, right? Yeah, right. Like the length of games has got. And I watched this MLB special where they were talking about how 1978 World Series is like a 2.5-hour game, and now it's get in the postseason, you're doing 4 hours plus games, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have. Especially in the postseason, you don't have one guy going out there throwing 8 innings anymore. The regular season, complete games, how much time that would save on pitching changes. And when it comes to pace of play, I think right now we're at 24 seconds per pitch. If you go over into like Japan, if you go over into Korean baseball, they're a lot closer to 15, 17 seconds a pitch.
Wow, it's that big of a difference, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty big. And I can't remember what it is, but I believe every second you shave off the average is 15 minutes.
Wow. Right?
So if you go from 24 seconds to 20 seconds, your games are 45 minutes shorter. And so none of us want it to be. I don't ever want any situation in a game to be affected by somebody saying you're taking too long, it's a ball. You're taking too long, it's a strike. I almost think of it like soccer, and like if you got a really slow pitcher out there who's taken 45 seconds between pitches and he's just slow. That's all it is. He's just slow. It'd be interesting if you could go out and give a warning and say, if you keep up that slow play, then maybe some other type of punishment comes into play. But like, I just can never imagine a pitch clock or anything being instantly, oh, you hit 24 seconds. I have to, something happens now because you didn't, get rid of the ball. So.
And they already tried something gimmicky to speed up the game. This stupid how the pitcher's got to face 3 batters minimum. I absolutely hate that as well. That fundamentally changed the game.
Yeah, I don't think that helps.
And I don't think it sped it up at all.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on from pitch count here. Taylor, I just have a question here. It's not from Discord, but this is from my nephew. Just texted me and wants to know: do you play MLB The Show? And if so, what's it like playing with your own character or player? I guess is a better word for it.
So I know as a baseball player, it's going to be disappointing, but I do not play MLB The Show. This is going to be bad because the games take too long for me to play. So not a great transition point. So, not a great transition point right there. So, but no, I used to play The Show, but like I said, too long for me to play. But yeah, as a gamer, knowing that I'm in a game and seeing like whenever anybody's playing, they'll send me a picture or whatever. My cousins will be like, "Hey, look at you!" Like that's cool. So
that's pretty sweet.
But like my girlfriend says, she wants to just get MLB The Show just because I'm in it, so she can have it. She doesn't even play games or have a PlayStation or anything. So I don't know. It's cool, but yeah, I don't play The Show because of the length of the game.
No, that is a perfect answer. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Here.
Perfect timing too, as we were talking about pace of play.
That was totally unplanned. That was great. All right, so let's move on now to universal DH. How are we? This feels like this is another inevitability, right? That's coming.
I was actually shocked that after they did it in 2020 that they went back last year. It just seemed like a weird move, but I think you're right. I think it's inevitable. As an AL fan, I don't watch a lot of NL games unless it's the playoffs. I don't really care. It's kind of cool when pitchers get to hit. But I can also see how, you just look at the guys who are hitting in the DH spot. Obviously, they're more fun to watch hit than most pitchers, right? No offense.
One thing I learned this year, and I guess it was just an oversight on my part. I just made an assumption. The DH has to be in for the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Shohei Ohtani would have another level of value if instead of having a DH in for him, you just throw him in for your catcher or whoever your number 8 guy was, right? Like
whoever your best defensive player is who can't hit.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
it's a good point, man. That's fun.
It's just weird that that's even a detail that needs to be stipulated in the rule book. Like, oh, you can have a DH, but only for your pitcher. I don't know. What do you guys think, though, Joel? You got a thoughts on the DH?
Oh man, they're two different games fundamentally. The American League and the National League. Like the sport it's a different sport. The moves that you make over the course of the game in the National League. Are we going to try to get the pitcher through his spots coming up in the lineup, right? His spots coming up in the lineup affects your opinion of whether you keep him in the game or not, and how you face batters and the number 8 guy's on, so I'm going to walk him and face the pitcher's spot, right? It's a chess game over there in the National League, right? And in the American League, swing for the fences with the designated hit, and it's so much more entertaining. It is, but it's to me, it's always been two different games, and it's almost like when you have the World Series, it's those two different leagues that existed 100 years ago coming together and seeing which one is the best at their version of baseball, and the home team gets the advantage. And you got.
Would you be bummed? Would you be bummed if the NL went to DH as well?
I think I'd be bummed as the hardcore baseball fan, but I understand the move for the game as a whole, right? It's like as a baseball fan, I don't want it to get any faster. I want 162 5-hour games, you know. You know, and but when I think about the National League and the American League and how different they are and what it is like, a National League manager to me has a different connotation than an American League manager, and it's just I think it's me as a diehard fan being like, don't touch it, leave it alone. It's been perfect since they created it in 1836. You know, it's fine, leave it alone, don't touch it. But I don't know. That's like you said, it's probably an inevitability because I think last year the pitcher's batting average is a buck 50% strikeout rate, right? That's just a spot that's not entertaining anybody. So
and anytime a pitcher gets injured, hitting,
I like to as me as a diehard baseball fan, I love to watch pitchers hit. I love to watch a guy who comes up and he's at the back of the batter's box and there is no like that look. He looks like me. You know, there's this relatability to it, but I just it's like you said, the change is probably just going to have to happen, and I'm just going to have to bite my tongue and watch the game change a little bit more. And you know, you can't take the hard slide in a second anymore, and you can't run over the catcher anymore. And you're like, oh man, when you look at baseball in the 80s, holy crap, was that a sport?
Oh man, I can relate to this so hard right now after watching Mr. Baseball last week, and just like all of the details that like Tom Selleck was so annoyed about playing over in Japan, and is like, this isn't baseball, and like everything that they were doing is like all here now. Like they got rid of the takeout slide at second base and everything. I was just like, it was kind of weird to watch in 2022, to be honest with you. Craig, do you have thoughts on the DH before we move on?
If I was Major League Baseball, I would take one more year as is, but my change would be, and I think they should have done this already, to be honest with you. So the Washington Nationals come to Toronto to play. That's a National League team coming to American League. It's in the American League Park. It's National League rules. Let's have all the fan bases see how the other fan bases live. Now the Jays next week go to Washington. There's a DH. Let's have the entire group of fan bases see how each other lives and then decide, well, you know what? I didn't think I would like that version of baseball. Can I tell you something? That was fun as hell. Let's see if we have a consensus that way rather than force feeding a solution. That's what I would do if I was Major League Baseball.
I 100% agree, and I think that
That's
2
brilliant.
weeks from now, when the Bengals win the Super Bowl, that they have to follow it up the next week up in Winnipeg and play some 3-down football against our Grey Cup champions. So let's see which version of football is better. All right, let's move on though from the topic of the DH. I guess we could do an update on the lockout situation. It's kind of been, I'm sure, talked about ad nauseum at this point. There isn't any real progress going on, but I do want to talk about expanded playoffs, as that is a major detail to be discussed. Currently, 10 teams make the playoffs. Sounds like the owners are wanting 14, whereas the players' side would prefer 12. So how are we feeling about that? I know, Scott, you're a bit of a old school guy. You want one from the AL and one from the NL, and that's enough.
I can't help being an old man in this particular scenario. One of the magic of 100.
Read the newspaper and see who's playing on the radio.
Scott grew up where you won your division or you were not, and there was only 2 in each league, by the way. You won the division or you were not part of the postseason.
So that's the point, though, is we've already experienced expanded playoffs. So a lot of these like baseball purist arguments, in my opinion, are out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now let's just talk about what's best in terms of what's best for the game, what's best for entertainment.
If the choices are 12 or 14, I choose 12.
I choose 16.
Wild card. Rid of the wild card game is what I want. Wild card game is the stupidest thing that exists in sports, and it's in our beloved baseball, gentlemen. Drives me nuts.
So
I'm with that. I wouldn't mind an actual series. You know, these one-game playoffs is to play 162 games to have it all come up to one game. It does kind of take away that.
so here's the problem with that, right? Is like if we're doing a one game wild card playoff play in situation, right? We can't really have an extended chunk of time where other teams are getting buys, because I don't think the bye helps in baseball the way it does in football, right? Where you've been grinding it out for 17 weeks and you need that extra week. It's an advantage to be healthy, right? Going into the playoffs. Whereas in baseball, especially if we talk about a 14 team playoff, 7 in each league, right? You're going to have three division
a lot
winners,
of momentum. Yeah.
4 wild cards, with the top division winner in the league getting a bye in the first round while the other 6 teams play it out. I don't see that as a major advantage to just take 5 days off in the middle of, like, look how hot the Jays were going in to the end of September last year, right? Like,
it wouldn't be 5 days off, though. That's part of my point. It would not. You only need to carve out 2 more days. The wild card game's there. It's one. We only need to carve out 2 more days. It's a best of 3. The best team, the team with the best record, the division winner, hosts all 3 of those games. All 3. And from an owner standpoint, now we've minimum doubled the revenue, because we didn't have 1 wild card game. Even if it gets swept, we've minimum doubled the revenue. We may have tripled the revenue. And carving out these games, again, I'll say, when we grew up, All-Star break was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They've added a Thursday. We could get rid of that. Right now, baseball has a marquee game that starts on that Sunday. Then the season play. Forget that. Everybody starts on that Saturday. We can carve out time here. I'm not worried about that, to be honest with you.
I love it. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it should be a series. Absolutely.
Best of
I think
3
one
in the
game is
first
silly.
round?
Yeah.
Joel?
100%. The 1 game wild card is. It just shocks me that you can end your season like it's a football game.
Although one thing I will say, I do enjoy watching a wild card game that is won in extra innings by Edwin hitting a home run. I will say that. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute now.
I just don't think it's saying that one pitcher on a team,
Right.
breaking it down to one pitcher.
Yeah, you've used a dozen all season. Now I need one guy to be hot on one day, and that's supposed to tell the story of who the better team is here?
That's not what baseball is. Yeah, it's not what baseball.
Well, I agree. I think we go 16 teams, nobody gets a bye, and we go 7-game series for every single round. Let's knock 15 days off the season and just get right to playoffs. Let's stop kidding ourselves. All right. Seriously, though, moving on. Minor league housing is in the news again. Obviously, the MLB ownership group announced that they would be... the intention was to, I guess, provide housing for minor leaguers, which is, we can all agree, a good thing. However, the details of this policy, I guess, have kind of been gone through now by this advocate group earlier this week. And I just wanted to read some of the details here, and you guys can jump in and give your thoughts on this. So while the MLB ownership has intended to provide more than 90% of minor league players with furnished housing accommodations at each major league club's expense for the 2022 season, some details include the league's plan to have 2 players sharing a bedroom, which I cannot imagine as a grown man sharing. I mean, sharing an apartment is one thing, having a roommate, but sharing a bedroom while you're trying to pursue your career does not seem good enough. They also criticize...
Says the comedian who has shared a room with at least one of the people on this screen.
Well, yes, but not for 6 months straight, and not while trying to maintain peak physical fitness. I mean, this peak physical fitness just happens on its own, so I'm very blessed. I'm well aware of that. Another critique of the of this is that the MLB is refusing to provide accommodations for players with spouses and children, and in addition to that, the advocate group is against the MLB using host families or hotel rooms as a substitute for adequate housing, suggesting that every big league team should have no problem finding 30 apartments in each of its minor league cities. So just generally, how do we feel about this? Taylor, you're welcome to chime in. You're also welcome to keep your mouth absolutely shut.
No, I mean, I think obviously that they're doing this. It's great. To make the point about sharing the rooms, I don't think, especially with guys that have been doing this, that have been in the minor leagues for a while, I don't think you'll find too many complaints with that because, I mean, from a player's standpoint, because, I mean, I'm coming from, like, especially low round guys that don't sign for a lot of money, undrafted guys that don't sign for a lot of money. You're used to staying in an apartment. I mean, it wasn't ideal, but you're used to staying in a 1-bedroom apartment with 4 or 5 guys. So, you know, now if they're saying, hey, we'll pay for it, but you just have to stay in the same room as another guy, oh, sign me up. Like, you know, because
you're like, 3 less guys. That's great.
Exactly. This is awesome. This is paradise. No, but I think that it's, in reality, it's not that bad. And if we're getting our housing paid for, especially with the amount that we're getting paid, I think, you know, you're not going to find too many hassles there. Now, I didn't know about the wives and the children. That's kind of tough. So I don't know what I could say there, but, you know,
should it be the MLB's responsibility to take care of your family for you on top of that?
Yeah, I think absolutely it should. You know, if you're saying that you'll pay for the players, well, that's you're helping out our lives. But what are we supposed to do, like, for the guys that do have children? Like, now, like, how does that work? You know, like, because a lot of these people can't afford to just say, hey, honey, you can go stay at home. You know, I'll go and, you know, work over here while you take care of the kids every single day, and I'm gone 6 months out of the year. You know, I just don't really think that would work. But again, it's a good starting point. We can't get everything at once, I guess. You know, so
it is a great starting point, and that is one thing that I think that a lot of fans maybe don't even truly get is the pay of some of these minor league players. I know we had Hagen Dan or Haggy D on the show, and he was talking about how the balls are different in low A and high A, but then once you start getting up, the balls are better. And we asked him, is that a money thing? And he went, oh, probably. I make $12,000 a season. It's for sure a money thing. It was like, oh, you know, like
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Well, I think, Taylor, you're definitely the most qualified to speak on that topic. I don't really feel comfortable giving any criticism to that game plan now after that glowing review. But if anybody else has anything to say on the matter, jump in now. Or Joel, you got something to say?
Sauce landed on that. That was an education, because that was my concern from day one. I literally think that I was on the Walkoff podcast and we talked about this a few months back, is this something that's going to be legit from the player standpoint? Because the fear was it's just the opening salvo in the PR, in the court of public opinion, because it's owners versus players association. This is just the first PR blow across the bow type thing. That was the concern. So to hear Sauce say, wait a minute, you know what, this I get on the surface, maybe it doesn't sound ideal, but can I tell you where we're coming from?
Yeah.
So actually isn't that bad. That was very interesting.
No, that is a great point. I think it's easy for people on the outside to look at it with a critical eye and say this doesn't go far enough. But it is interesting that someone who's actually living it goes, let's not get greedy here. This is a huge step and a big win, and thank you.
Yeah.
And to add to it too, just another aspect of it, like in the minor leagues, everybody shares a room when you go on the road anyway. So like that's honestly worse, you know, in a hotel room, you know, than it is sharing a sleeping area in an apartment. So you know, you just take what you can get, and it's a great starting point, like you said. So, you know, I think that'll help out a lot of people to at least a lot of players to at least go home with some cash in their pocket, rather than, you know, all their money throughout the whole season going through rent, you know, and having $200 left, you know, and trying to get through the 2 weeks of being a professional athlete with no money and barely eating. So like I said, it's a great starting point. It's going to put more money in players' pockets to do stuff and potentially live like a normal life, say. So, you know, it's awesome that they're doing this.
Sauce is sitting there saying, what's the catch?
Yeah.
All right, let's we got a few minutes here, and we're gonna run out of time on our 2-hour time limit. But let's toss back to Discord here. Mark, do you have anything from Discord?
I had a question myself, actually. But I actually, we were discussing it in the Discord. but I'm curious to get everybody's opinion. Ken Rosenthal has multiple times tweeted out that the Blue Jays are heavy into the Freddie Freeman sweepstakes. I want to know what your take on that is. You think it's realistic? Does it make sense if they got Vladdy at first base? And if not him, who else?
No,
I think it does. I think it does go to show you how important a lefty bat is to this front office. I think that splitting up this heavy right-handed order is a priority. I don't know if positionally Freddie fits, but maybe they think Vladdy can go back to third. I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty big signing. I mean, it's, Freddie Freeman is top of the MLB food chain, right? So
nobody's going to complain.
Craig, you look like you had something to say there.
This is as yes please as it gets for me. 99 times out of 100, I am concerned with the positional fit, but both Slim Daddy Vladdy and Freddie Canada have played first base and third base. This is the one time out of 100 where I'm not concerned. This is the one time out of 100 where I NBA the situation. You guys know the NBA, you just accumulate as much all-star talent as possible, and then you figure it all out after. If somebody's saying to me, well, Craig, Slim Daddy Vladdy or Freddie Canada playing third base isn't ideal, my response back to them is that right? Is that what's happening right now? Because all I can see is the lineup card, and all I can see for the next 5 years is Slim Daddy Vladdy in the 3 spot and Freddie Freeman in the 4 spot. So if there's an issue with that, it escapes me. I am all for this. This Blue Jay team is clamoring for a left-handed bat. Could we go out and handpick a better left-handed bat for this team? I am all in.
You know what? Can I change my answer to Craig's answer?
Yes, we'll edit that and we'll put your face on his when he's talking. All right, Joel, what do you think? Freddie?
I'm 100% for it as well. I agree, but to me, it's a situation where if you're in on Freddie Freeman, it's kind of I think you're out on the idea of having a team DH, if that makes sense. You're putting yourself in a position where Vladdy can go over to third, but then you can try to put him in a position where maybe he still plays 30 or 40 games at first base, get some designated hitter time. The same for Freeman, right? Like, I don't think if you make that move, you're not looking for Vladdy to go over to third base and play 155 games at third base this year. No, it would be interesting if he could get 80 there. And then you could find a way to figure out the other, 82 games that you need to.
Even if he can play 60 there, I think you can massage it.
And it's and I'm 100% for it. To me, a left-handed bat is what you just saw the Braves do it with Freeman, right? Like Lou Gehrig, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle hitting from that side of the plate, Babe Ruth. Like, these are like lefties, Reggie Jackson, Barry Bonds, like the lefty. It does something different. You can't pitch this guy the same way that you get pitch all those Reds. You can't throw the same pitches to him that you can get everybody else in the lineup out with. So when you throw in that another element to that lineup, and Freddie Freeman being it, I 100% agree. That's championship stuff in the making right there if he comes.
From a free agent standpoint, as far as the Toronto Blue Jays becoming a destination, this is now a culture in the clubhouse that's led by Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Freddie Freeman. Are you kidding me right now? That's big time. These are respected players around the league.
And you look at
Boss, you could handle having Freddie, eh?
Yeah, you're not complaining with the talent like that.
All right, let's wrap it up here. Last topic of the night. This is just a little fun one here. What is everybody watching and or doing to fill their baseball void in their off time right now? So, Joel, let's start with you. What are you watching these days? What are you consuming for content?
I have not actually been able. Like, I'm the worst person to give you an answer because I'm actually making content. Not that we're not that we're
okay, bro.
No, I'm not. I'm like
writing screens.
We're all making content here. That's so mean to say, but like when it comes to entertainment and stuff, I'm a screenwriter. That's what I do, right? So I'm in the middle of casting of my horror. Like we talked about it before. We were talking about it in the spring. 30-40% of it has been shot already, and that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm sitting there doing rewrites on my scripts every single night, and so instead of being able to consume the stuff that's out there, as soon as I stop this, I'm going to be talking to a producer for 3 hours about a scene. So it's not, I don't get to take it in as much as I'm in creation mode right now. So.
Well, you just made me feel guilty about binging 7 episodes of Ozark yesterday. So
Sorry. I have no idea what's cool. You guys give me some good options to watch stuff. I need to. This is the worst thing. I actually wanted to watch the MacGruber series. Okay. I think that's what I'm actually interested in watching that. So I'm probably the only one. It's a great one. So that's probably, don't ask me what about entertainment.
I want to jump in here before Craig takes it, but I've been watching a very fun Raptors team in this since baseball ended. You got to fill the void somewhere, but man, this has been a fun Raptors team to follow, especially considering how they've kind of they've become a team in the last few months, and it's been fun to watch, and they're healthy and they're winning games. And I know that game, was it yesterday they went to triple overtime? Holy crap, like that was just insane.
I don't know, I think casual fan would be too generous of a term to describe me when it comes to basketball. But I feel like I did not give this Raptors team enough credit when they won it all with Kawhi Leonard. I watched that whole playoff run, and I guess I just chalked it all up to he was incredible, and he was. Yes. Right? But just the fact that, like, after he left and this team has still been able to compete has kind of blown me away.
Oh, the retool. Like, I was worried it was going to be a full-on rebuild, and we might be in this for 5 years, but it's looking good now, yeah.
Craig, you're big on the Raptors. What's going on?
Yep. I've shifted my Blue Jay content into Raptors content. Blue Jay baseball is certainly number one for me. I don't know how Joel finds the time to do the things he's doing, because I know he had a lot of time is consumed for him counting his money from TikTok. So that's impressive that he can find other things as well. That's awesome. It's funny you're talking about.
What TikTok don't make no money in Canada.
It's part of the TikTok stipulation. Sorry, if you sign up for TikTok, you have to follow Hey Kami. That's part of that's the rules. He's got like 14 anyway. But it's funny you guys are talking about TV shows, because I just had the rug pulled out from under me, because I don't know if you guys remember a show back in the day, John Lithgow, Third Rock from the Sun. So I was rewatching on Prime, and all of a sudden I went to watch it today, and they've taken it right off, and I was only like 3 seasons into 6 seasons. So I was actually happy with my TV, what was going to keep me entertained right now. But boy, Disney Prime pulled the rug right from underneath me. So man, I'm looking for a new show. I think Adam's saying Ozark. Then is that where I need to go, Adam?
Yeah, I think Ozark is your best bet. It's season 4 just came out, and it's pretty incredible.
Okay,
best show I've seen in years. So, Taylor, what are you up to?
Not a whole lot. Just enjoying football, or last final weeks of football. Shows right now, I'm cycling through a lot. Cycling through Book of Boba, Star Wars.
How is that?
Well, I would say like the first couple episodes is kind of like draining me, like kind of like waiting for this thing to pick up, because like I'm comparing it to Mandalorian, which is such a great show. But the most recent episode of Book of Boba was awesome, amazing. So hopefully, we're on the right track. But I'm also watching Peacemaker from HBO Max. That's an interesting one. And then Ozarks. I'm only on episode 2 of season 4. And then also watching Friends, because my girlfriend wants me to watch it. So season 9 of that. So I've just been cycling through a lot. So I've had plenty of time to fill my void during this lockout. So.
Now that's Disney, Prime, Netflix. Sauce is spreading around some of that Major League money. That's a few.
We got it all thanks to the Roku. So.
I gotta say that I am on a pretty strict rotation when it comes to my content. So it's usually Netflix year round on YouTube, because that's free, and then we'll sprinkle in HBO for like a month, and we'll binge all the HBO stuff, and then we'll cancel that one and we'll move over to Amazon. binge
good
all the
idea.
good stuff on there. So that's the strategy in this household. Anyways, thanks everybody again for joining us for episode 1 of the Long Toss. We'll just wrap up here with a couple of outros, but before we do, we'll just check in with YouTube one more time. Mark, do you have any comments from YouTube?
Yeah, we got a comment that says, "This is awesome. Fair dinkum chats with some bloody smart people."
Oh, that's Phil, isn't it?
That's gotta
Phil,
be
yeah.
Australia, Phil.
That's
yeah.
Aussie Phil. Nice.
All right. Well, this has been a really great time. Let's just wrap up here and let everybody know where they can find you. So, Scott, we'll start with you. Everybody already knows. You host the Walkoff here.
Host the Walkoff. I'm going to be in Lethbridge headlining the comedy club Good Times there on February 19th, and then I head to Ottawa to headline Laugh Lounge February 25-26.
Nice. All right. Craig, what are you up to? Where can everyone find you? What are you working on?
So I guess people would know this. Is that correct about themselves? Okay, so this is probably me dropping the ball. Okay, I think on Twitter I'm at Craig Ballard 77. I'm pretty sure that's correct. And then
I can back that up as one of his his followers.
There you go. And mine yours. Yes. Okay, so at Craig Ballard 77, and then on TikTok I'm pretty sure I'm just at Craig_Ballard. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Awesome. Joel, what are you working on other than the horror movie?
Content, Raptors content, baseball content, sports content. And thank guys, I've been waiting for this, for a few weeks, guys. I've been excited about this. This was every bit as much fun as I, to be honest, as I thought it would be. I've had the pleasure of interacting with you gentlemen before. So to be honest, I had expectations and it met the expectations. I really thank you guys.
Well, we love.
Hey, thrilled to have you back, Craig. This was a lot of fun, man. Look forward to the next time.
Awesome.
Joel.
Hey, yeah, TikTok right there. Hey, Kami, I don't know if you can see that in the back. Just baseball content as usual, covering pretty much whatever I want to, whenever I want to. So, and then, that's pretty much the only place you can find me. I'm not really in social media anywhere else except there, but
well, you're pretty big on TikTok, so you got your hands full there. You're probably one of the top baseball creators on TikTok. So anybody that's not familiar,
I love that face. He's like, don't put me.
I got lucky with one topic. That's it.
All of a sudden, you like to look at the TikTok lives. I like to see the comments. I want to interact with the people during the Blue Jay game. And all of a sudden, one day, because my bad, I was late to the Hey Kami party. All of a sudden, one day, it's just all these comments. Craig, Hey Kami's in here. Craig, did you say Hey Kami? Craig, you've got Hey Kami. Craig, Hey Kami's in here. And so it was my TikTok people that put me onto Hey Kami. I opened up his page. It says 19,047,000,000 followers. Oh my God, this is fire! Wow. So I was late to the Hey Kami party, but I'm a full-fledged member now.
It's a very new party. You're not late at all.
You're in charge of the music, all right? Let's take care of this.
Okay.
But I have to agree. It's
handing out.
All right, Taylor. Where can everyone find you? I know you stream on Twitch. You don't play MLB The Show though.
No MLB The Show. Too long of innings. So I stream every now and then. My name on there is Saucy07, which is also my Instagram name. So you can find me on there. Twitter is tsauce7. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Anybody else have anything else they want to add before we wrap it up and call it a wraps on episode 1?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone here. This was a lot of fun. Really enjoyable. Great job, gentlemen.
Thank
you for having me on.
It was incredible. This was met and surpassed all of my expectations. It was a great 2 hours.
Kami made his TikTok Legion fans that if they tuned in and were not entertained by this, he would make them a personalized video. So Kami still might have some work to do here.
That's right. Hopefully we entertain.
All
right.
We are that. Anybody?
We are doing this every Sunday now, so hopefully we can have some of you guys back.
Absolutely. I'm excited to do it again. I can always.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure. It was fun.
Enjoy the rest of that football game, and we'll see everybody again, hopefully again on a future Sunday. So
awesome.